while you're on a roll right now, why don't you introduce Morris, you know, because you're probably going to, since you're just like a veteran, you're probably going to do way better than me because I'm the young buck here. So
Well, that's
I
kind
just
of
know,
funny because when you said I want to have Morris on, I have Morris. I said, who the heck is Morris? I don't even know Morris. I know a Buddy Bart. You know, we all know Buddy. And, you know, the one thing about Morris Bart is, again, this is a gentleman that we've learned from because he first of all, he's a giver. And that's how he runs his life. That's how he runs his practice. And we met maybe 30 years ago, maybe more. Who knows? I'm afraid to say, you know, how long we've been doing this, huh, buddy?
It's been a long time.
A long, long time. And the one thing that that's always been between us, as well as you know, many of our friends, is we're always giving. We're always, you know, sharing information. You're dealing with an icon in the business. You know, Buddy helped pioneer this business, certainly one of the very first advertisers on the planet, but he never stopped working and contributing from every single thing that he does. He's passionate about it. And quite frankly, I've learned a heck of a lot more from you than you've learned from me, Buddy. And so with that, teach us some more.
Good. Well, thank you, Harlan. I appreciate that. And Bill, I got, first I'm going to give you a pointer. Next time you want to get someone to give a 30-second summation, instead of thinking of a bomb in their chest, tell them, think you have to take a dump real bad. I think that's
the best way to start off a speech
that
ever.
works better for me. And listen, I think all the attendees on this Zoom conference are very lucky because there's a lot of guys running around pretending to be experts. And having Harlan and Michael DeMayo on this conference is the real deal. I mean, these are a couple of guys I got a great deal of respect for. They know what they're doing. They know what they're saying. Harlan, as he mentioned, he and I go way, way back to the Norton Fricky days in Denver, which was around before most of you all were even born. It also shows what a topsy-turvy world we're in right now when I see Harlan wearing a T-shirt. I mean, this guy is Mr. Dapper. And so to see Harlan in a T-shirt just kind of blows my mind.
Let us get a flex real quick, Harlan. Give us a flex real quick. There it is.
There it is. I could say what that comes from, but I'm not.
You're too kind.
And then Michael is the real deal. I mean, he's running his practice, a highly successful practice. He knows how to not only talk the talk, but how to walk the walk. So, you know, I'm honored to be on this panel today. So let's see, why don't we go back? It's hard to believe we're in the year 2020, and I first started advertising on television in 1980. So this marks my 40th year nonstop on television. When you get on that train, you don't get off. And that's been my philosophy. So for 40 years nonstop, I've been on television. So I'll give you, you know, I'll sum up what could take hours. I'll do it in 15 minutes and kind of give you the high points that I think will help you with your practice. If we go back to when I started, I had an agent. I had an agency that was creating and doing my ads for me, you know, very typical. And this agent had his own style. And we used those ads. But I had my own creative ideas. I've always been a student of marketing. It's always appealed to me. Perhaps I got that from my father, who got his master's from Northwestern in marketing. He's kind of a marketing guru. I've always been fascinated by it. So I had my own creative ideas, and I tried to share it with my agent and said, hey, why don't we try this style? Or why don't we try that style? And the response I got back from him was absolutely not. In fact, his classic line he gave me, I still remember to this day, was, he goes, you think just because you watch TV that you can create ads. But this is a unique industry, and you just don't understand it, so let me do what I do. And his ads worked. They did work, and I did well. I probably had, you know, 3-4 lawyers working for me back then. I was making good money, and I was happy. And we ended up eventually parting company with each other. And when I did, I got a producer, and I told that producer, I said, look, I have my ideas. I want to do my ideas, and I want you to create it, because I don't know anything about adjusting cameras or camera lenses or lighting, but I can see an ad and instantly know if it works or not. And so we started putting my ideas into play. And ever since then, for decades and decades now, I've been creating my own ads and having someone do it. And during that time, I grew from whatever I was, about 3 lawyers, to now we're about 110 lawyers with a staff of 300. I have 15 offices spread among 4 states in the Deep South, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and even have a toehold in Arkansas. The main office is here in New Orleans. We spend about $25 million a year on marketing, and it's been a very good ride. It's been a very good ride. So that's where I am now, and you're thinking, well, that's good for you, but what about me? What's in this for me? So here's what's in it for you, and there's a couple of points I want to stress to you. Everyone has their own style, and you're going to see a lot of different styles out there. And to varying degrees, all of them work. So what I think is important for all of you to do is to decide what style appeals to you, assuming there's no right or wrong. Some of you envision yourself as a pillar of the community, and you want ads that portray you as a very serious, conscientious, studious, dependable lawyer. Those ads work. My friend John Morgan, that's the style he uses for the most part. Others perceive themselves as renegades, that you want to be seen as a guy that's not going to follow the rules, that's willing to buck convention. And that's a strong message for your clients too, to say, hey, this is a lawyer that's going to fight for me, that's going to get in there, that's going to kick some butt, that's going to be a renegade. My friend Glenn Lerner, that's style that he's used successfully in Las Vegas and Arizona. And there's everything in between. So you can't really say this style works and this doesn't. It's a matter of taste almost. And you can't say someone's suit that they wear or someone's tie is better than someone else's tie. I mean, who knows? Who cares? The mark of a successful television ad is one that makes the telephone ring. And of course, the best ad for you is the ad that fits your style, because that's the ad you're going to appear to be most genuine in. I mean, just a quick anecdote I'll tell you here. When I was in law school, there was a famous criminal lawyer in New Orleans that was friends with my parents, and I had the opportunity to go to court and watch him do a jury trial. And to my surprise, he was very low-key, laid back, soft, and he ended up winning the trial. And I remember after the trial telling him, I said, I watched television. Of course, Perry Mason was a big show back then. It kind of dates myself. But, I told him, I said, I thought you have to be really bombastic and yell and scream. And that's how a successful criminal defense lawyer works. And you were so soft-spoken. And he said, you know what? When you try a case before a jury, he goes, you have to be yourself. He goes, I have friends of mine who are criminal defense lawyers who are exactly what you say, are very bombastic, and they're very successful. He goes, that's not my style. And if I did it, I would look fake and the jury wouldn't believe me. So he goes, I am true to myself, and I do the type of summation, and I'm the type of personality that I know appeals to the jury. I don't think it's much different with television ads. You have to look at all the different styles of ads out there, and it's amazing how many of them are amateurish. And despite that, they still work to some degree. But your most successful ad will be the one that matches your personality. And that's where you will end up doing the best. So I think that's the first step. It's very important to do. And just like the lesson I learned with my agent, where he told me, just because you watch TV, you don't understand this business. And of course, I've proven him wrong with decades of success. I would encourage you to do the same thing. If you have an agent, an agency producing your ads, don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to voice your ideas. Don't be afraid to assert your style as far as what you feel is best for you.
Quick question.
Yep.
One quick question. All right. So this is gold. For everyone listening right now who's like, I can't afford TV ads or whatever you're thinking, one of the things we said in the text of the event was how you can also, this applies to YouTube. This applies to creating a Facebook ad. This applies to being a human being and owning who you are on camera. So my question to you is, before we go into the next tip, I'm curious, finding your own unique way of communicating on camera, what percent of that is gained through taking so much action and just doing so many commercials and so many videos that eventually your true self comes out versus, you know, the alternative, which would be sitting in a meditative pose and going, who am I? And then it appearing.
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing that up, because that is a point I wanted to cover, and it was likely I was going to get sidetracked and not even get to that. So you have to look at the whole universe here. And when I first started, it was very easy. There was television advertising, and you had the 3 networks, and that was it. And then it's vastly expanded now to where you have television and cable with 700 channels, and you can even cut the cable and not even deal with that. And that's another viable approach. And then you have digital, you have billboards. So here is my belief. My belief is that television forms the foundation of any successful attorney advertising program. That is your foundation, and you must build on that. But that in and of itself is not sufficient to be successful. You can have a relative degree of success with that, but if you intend on growing and building, you then need to add to your foundation with, I would say, in order of importance after television, I would then say digital. And after digital, I would say billboards. Of course, you go on after that. You have radio, you have public relations. We do all of that. We check all the boxes. But first and foremost, I believe you start with television. And if you don't have the money for that, then you go to digital. Problem with digital, I have a couple of thoughts on that. One is, and we have a very robust digital program. I have an in-house digital team that also I have an outside team. My belief is that SEO or organic trumps pay-per-click. I am not a big fan of pay-per-click. I think the marketplace is too glutted. One thing good about television is the cost of entry is now so high that it keeps a lot of people out. The bar is set so low with digital that you can have 1 million lawyers advertising in your market, even though they're spread throughout the world or throughout the country. I've tried going into markets where I've done just a digital campaign. And I've gone in and I've done a robust pay-per-click and an organic campaign, and my response was mediocre. I've gone in to markets where I've done just a television campaign without digital, and I've done pretty well, but not as well as when I go into a market and I have a robust television campaign followed by a robust digital campaign, emphasizing the organic side much more than the pay-per-click side. I found that to be better. Of course, organic is extremely hard to optimize, particularly when you're going into a market outside of your home office. Google is very impressive with their algorithms, and they'll crawl through your site and they can quickly determine who's legit and who's not. So I find you have to have bricks and mortar, you have to have people there, you have to have reviews and legitimate reviews, and it requires a massive amount of work, but the yield is much better in my experience than doing pay-per-click. Pay-per-click is a quick Band-Aid. So if cost is a factor, then you're going to have to put sweat equity in it. If you don't have the dollars, then you're going to have to get out there and you're going to have to spend a lot of time doing social media, which may or may not be helpful depending on who you talk to. Some experts believe that a robust social media presence is one of the factors Google considers in their rankings. Other experts believe, no, it has nothing to do with it. Nobody seems to know the bottom line on that. But it can't hurt. It can't hurt. So if you're long on time and short on money, then yeah, go digital do all the social media, have a robust presence there, do everything you can to optimize your site so you can get ranked higher organically. Quick mandate is, do your pay-per-click, but you got to watch the cost, because if you don't narrow the match, and I know I'm getting too technical here. This is terms, this is really for another talk. But
I'm surprised that this. This is amazing. This
yeah,
is awesome. Narrow the match.
as I said,
This is what we go into on our internet boot camps. It's funny. Keep going.
yeah, I mean, I could talk for an hour just on narrow match and what terms you want to exclude, what terms you want to include. But Google's in the business to make money. So when you say, hey, I want to buy the term car wreck injury, for instance, or injury lawyer, you think you're put into a bucket of just that term, but you're not. You're put into a bucket of thousands of terms. And Google's feeling is, hey, if somebody clicks on it, you owe us money. You should be happy somebody clicked on your ad. But if they put you on an ad, let's say for criminal defense lawyer, you ain't getting any business that way, but Google's making money off you. So if you're going to do pay-per-click, be sure you understand how to do a narrow match, or the agency you're working with knows how to do a narrow match, or you're wasting your money. So that kind of, let's see, how much time do I have left, Bill?
So, I mean, what the call ends at 12:30 Eastern. So we have about 7 minutes till the end of the call, and then we'll push off the panelist Q&A. So, and then we can just do the number one tip from everyone still on the call for the next 7 days. So 6-7 minutes.
Okay, good. So
I'd get as much as you can out of buddy, because you're dealing with gold right here.
All right, so then we can just keep going.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'll wrap it up in 6-7 minutes. But so you've got to see what you can do. I believe that an interesting play, if you're short on funds again, would be to do a robust digital campaign, and then backed up by a robust billboard campaign. And again, this is another talk for another day, but lots of ways to buy billboards, from the large boards you see on the interstate, which, let's just call those billboards or boards. And they can run anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 a month. You can do an inner city showing of big boards, maybe $500 to $750 a month. Or then you can do posters. Posters are the small ones you see. There's usually two different panels. And you can go to them and you can buy remnants, as they call it, which are leftover boards that they can't sell. You can do a poster blitz, and really you could get them down $250, $300 a month. So you could put up a slew of billboards and have a robust digital campaign, and you would probably do okay. I mean, you're not going to do gigantic numbers, and I don't think you can do big numbers in any market in America if you don't have a robust television campaign. Remember, that's the foundation as I see it, and you build on that. But if you can't afford the $1 million or more budget to do a robust television campaign, then you do what you can. And I think digital, billboard's very good. I think radio, you can advertise on country and western stations or African American stations, because statistics have shown that minorities and people from the lower socioeconomic strata are usually the ones that respond most to attorney ads. So you want to try, if you do radio, to appeal to those demos. Yeah, Bill.
We're getting some people in the chat who are holding me to my promise, which is that you're going to tell us your step-by-step process for creating a TV ad.
All right, so
that's
where I was.
That off.
That's where I was. I got sidetracked. Let me get back to that. So where I had left off before we detoured into digital was I was telling you how I created these ads. And I said, you all are probably saying, well, that's fine and good for you, Bart, but what about me? So here's what I would suggest you do. You've got to educate your eye. You've got to educate your eye to where you're an astute consumer of television and television ads. And there's 2 recommendations I'm going to give you to do that. Number 1, in my office, I have 2 televisions on all the time. Right behind me, you'll see one of my televisions, which I just turned off to do this Zoom conference. And I'll leave that on one of the local television stations, usually our local Fox affiliate. And then the other television, I have 2 offices. Right now I'm in my conference room that connects to my private office. And so through this door over here goes into my private office. I have another large flat screen television that I'll keep usually, well, it depends. I alternate CBS, NBC, ABC. So I try and hit the, the 4 networks. Those stay on all day. And when I'm here in my office all day, which I still come to my office every day, all day. I did work remotely from home, didn't like it. So I and all 300 of my employees are back. But those stay on all day, and I'm constantly glancing up because you have to realize your ads appear not in a vacuum. Your ads appear alongside very sophisticated ads from national advertisers and so on. So you don't want to see this very sophisticated $1 million plus ad that a national furniture company or stockbroker or somebody has done, and then comes this hokey little attorney ad that you think's good because you didn't realize it's going to appear alongside these other sophisticated ads. Production values are very important. So if you get, I would recommend you get 2 televisions, mount it on your wall if you have to, put one on top of the other, leave it on different local television stations all day, and start familiarizing yourself with the shows and with the ads that appear on television all day, so that you can now become a more astute consumer. The second thing, and this is very important, they have a company called Kantar Media. And Kantar Media publishes what they call ad scope alerts. Now, what this means is every single day I come to my office, I have an email from Kantar Media that says ad scope alerts. And attached to this email is every single new attorney ad in America that started running in the last 24 hours. So I have staff in my marketing department that go through that every day, and quite often there's hundreds of different ads, but other days not so much. But they go through the ad scope alert every single day, and any ad they think would be relevant to me, they pull out and they send to me so I can look at it. So I'm
Just
aware.
To be clear, it's ad scope alert.
Hold on, Bill. I'm going to give you the information in just a
Okay.
second. I get that every single morning, so I'm aware of every single attorney ad in America. I find that invaluable because it shows me 2 things. Number one, it shows me, kind of to my surprise, that after decades and decades of attorney ads being around, the vast majority of them, 80, 90% of them, are still very amateurish, very unimpressive. But every now and then I see a style that I kind of like, or I might see a word or a phrase I kind of like. And then I spin that out in my own ads and create my own ads. I don't copy ads. But, the creative endeavor is such that you can get stimulated by looking at other ads. I still do that to this day, and I've done it for a long, long time. It used to be very primitive. Now it's very sophisticated. That will help you if you will spend the time to do that. In a very short time, probably within a couple of months, you will be very sophisticated in what attorney ads look like. And perhaps most importantly, for the guys out there just getting started out, you'll look at it and say, wow, I like that style of ad. I like that ad this attorney is doing. And then you go to whoever's producing your ad and say, see these ads? That's the style I want for myself. So here's how you contact them. They have a website, kantarmedia.com. Kantar is spelled Kantar. Their phone number is 1-800-497-8450. I'll repeat it, 1-800-497-8450. And they have a different pricing schedule. It depends on your market, where you are, what services you want. So, there's kind of a whole menu. You'll look at it and they'll quote you a price as to what they're going to charge. But that's how you get started. That's how you educate your eye. And that's where hopefully, 40 years of doing this you'll say, yeah, I'm so glad I listened to that Zoom conference call and I developed my own style and one I feel comfortable with, and it served me well. Because yes, it has served me well. I'm very comfortable with my style. I'm very comfortable how I represent myself. Success speaks for itself. So obviously that style I picked and I've used for many years has worked good for me. That's
You
not
know,
to say that other styles don't work.
buddy, one of the things that I've always admired with you, and I've learned from you, and you're saying this to everyone, is do your homework, be prepared, spend the time and the effort to understand your advertising. I mean, you have the most dominant practice, in your areas. There's a household word. No patronizing here; it's a fact. Uh, but one of the things that you do, and I do, is we try to do homework. We try to understand what other people are doing, and most important, we try to understand what we're doing. I've always been a believer of, and I've said this to you many times. I want to talk to the public the way I would a jury. I want to tell a story. I want to be, you know, uh, I don't want to say liked, but you have to form that relationship. But I think the big thing that you're saying here right now is you got to spend time and energy to understand and learn these things. You put in a lot of time, but if you think about it, this is your business.
Sure.
You're working always on your business, not in your business.
You know, we spend a lot of money. I mean, this has become almost $1 billion a year industry, legal advertising. Maybe it is $1 billion a year. And it always amazes me how little lawyers know about advertising. If you're going to be successful in this hyper competitive legal marketplace that we're in, you better be first and foremost, a very good lawyer. You better love being a lawyer. You better be a student of the law. You better enjoy what you do. Because if you don't enjoy what you do, it ain't worth it. I mean, it's just not worth it. If you don't like being a lawyer, screw it. I mean, just do something else. But if you're like, yeah, I really like being a lawyer. I like calling myself a lawyer. I like the image of being a lawyer. That's me. That's what I want to do. But I don't have any cases. So you've passed the first test, which is you love being a lawyer. And now the second test is, I want to be an expert in marketing. I want to learn what's out there. I want to be familiar with, every show. If I say 25 words, yeah, I know exactly what that show is. And I know exactly who's on it and what they say and what they do. And I know who advertises on that show. You need to be an expert as a lawyer and an expert in marketing. And if you do both well, then I think you'll be successful.
So would you say the process is brainstorming an idea? Like if we were to put this into like 3 or 4 steps. So the research portion of this is the gold in value. I completely agree. After you're starting to get your gears turning as to how you want this ad to sound, is there a process of like brainstorm, have a small like group meeting with your marketing team, finalize the concept? Like, is there a next step that you typically use to create a TV ad?
So there's nothing wrong with brainstorming because no one has a lock on creativity. Anybody, anywhere can have the idea. I guess the message I'm trying to get out to everybody listening here now is to have confidence in your ideas. But to be confident in your ideas without doing the homework, as Harlan just mentioned, is stupidity. I mean, there's no shortcut to success. You have to put the time in. You have to look at the shows. You have to look at the other ads. You have to understand what's going on. And then you might have an aha type moment. You might say, yeah, this is the style I want. This is what I want to say. This is what I want to do. And I would have confidence in your ideas and try your ideas. But first be sure you understand the marketplace before you do it. On the other hand, yeah, brainstorming with others, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, a lot of good ideas come out that way because nobody has a lock on creativity. We all learn from each other. And at any age and at any stage of our career, we can learn from others. And I think that's important to do.
So 3 questions we got in the chat, which I'm curious on. Number 1, what is the average cost of a TV ad? I'm sure it'll vary by platform. Next was cost per acquisition, which I'm sure is hard to track with digital. And then how to determine how much you should spend. So let's start with average cost cost per acquisition, things like that?
You know, I remember when we first started, we used to say, if it cost you $500 cost per case, you're inefficient. You're spending too much money. I mean, it's laughable how I would love to get cases for $500 a case. You know, it's hard to add. Here's where you need good accounting, economic advice, because it really depends on your individual practice. My overhead is extremely high, and you know, my cost of advertising is very high. So my cost of acquisition is going to be different from anybody else. Someone on this call, if they get a case and it costs them $5,000, you know, the cost per case or cost of acquisition, that might work for them. That might work for them because they get a big fee. Maybe they get a bigger fee on soft tissue cases than I get here in New Orleans. We don't have punitive damages in Louisiana. It's a different deal, but you need to really analyze that. You know, it could be 2,000. I kind of hear, you know, among friends of mine, I guess I hear anywhere 1,500, 2,000, 2,500. Some people in markets that aren't that competitive can get cases for less than $1,000 cost per case. I think that's very good. But there's too many variables to say. I'd say that really requires you need to look at your operation. How much does it cost you to run your business? How much does it cost you to advertise each year? What kind of fee are you getting on your case? And then you get your personal cost per case, which is a lot more relevant than me just saying, oh, you need to get cases for this much money.
Okay. And then average. So the last question I have, and I know we're a little over, is average cost. So if someone has, let's say, $15,000 a month to spend on TV, or $5,000, or $1,000, is there a barrier of how much you need to spend per month, per day, per week? A metric where it's like, don't even do it if you don't have X, or is that completely contingent upon the competitiveness of the market, channels, time of day?
Yeah, I would say it's dependent on the competition. You're going to have to look at the competition in your market. If you have a very sophisticated player in your market that's hitting all the right buttons, the cost of entry is going to be very high. If you have a market that is not that competitive, or you know, maybe you have a competitor in that market that, you know, goes dark on certain days or only advertises at certain times. You need to be aware of that so you can try to buy around that advertiser. I'd also say look at the style. Styles are different. You might have someone doing one style and you feel, you know, I have another style that's totally different from this lawyer. And I believe my style will work better in that marketplace than his style. And then you go in. So in most markets, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 a month, don't do it. It's just not enough money. I mean, if you can't spend, God, at least several $100,000 a year on television, it's just not really something you should play in. Unless you decide, okay, I'm just going to flight. You know, flight is, it used to be like 1 week on, 1 week off. You could do that, maybe go 1 month on, 1 week off. It's not the best way to advertise. Like I said, when I got on that train 40 years ago, I never got off and I still haven't gotten off. But if you're limited, then you flight. I mean, you go 1 week on and 1 week off. You hit it real hard 1 week, you get what you can, then you're off, and then you go back on the next week. It's a very expensive marketplace. It's high stakes poker. If you don't have the stakes, then you shouldn't sit down at that table.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So I'm going to say a safe ballpark is like, if you can't spend minimum 300,000-400,000 per year, don't do it. Is that
and that's not in major markets. I mean,
okay.
Secondary and tertiary markets. You know, if you're like, oh, okay, well, I'll listen to this and I'm in Chicago, so I'm going to spend $300,000 a year in Chicago.
Don't bother.
You know, you ain't going anywhere. or
Yeah.
Houston or Dallas or Denver, or, Miami, forget it. I mean, but if you're in, a smaller market and the level of competition isn't that much, then yeah, you can probably make a play. If you're in a major market, don't do it if you can't spend seven figures.
Can I clarify something with you, buddy? One of the things that I strongly recommend in this conversation, and this is exactly what you're saying, is have your agency or you figure out what the share of voice is in the marketplace. And what you're saying is that if you can't really come up with a share of voice, whether it's 4% or 10% or 30%, however it is, and you got to size it up with, you've been a big user of Kantar, so have I, of course. But share of voice can help you determine how you will be heard. And what you're saying is if you can't be heard, then you're wasting your money.
Sure. I mean, look, there's nothing unique anymore about attorneys advertising.
You mean we're not piranhas?
It's ubiquitous. I mean, so there's nothing we can really do to differentiate ourselves. We're not selling a product where we can drive it by price. It's a service-oriented business, and the pitch, like I said, once you get that newsletter from Kantar Media, the AdScope alerts, for those of you that decide to do it, it's going to be eye-opening the first day you do it. You go, oh my God, here's hundreds of ads. They all look the same. All the lawyers look the same. The message is the same. Everybody's saying the same thing. Nothing is unique out there. So you can't, it's hard to really distinguish yourself. The way John Morgan does it is by throwing a shitload of money behind his ads. And look, the guy has a charisma on air. I mean, he gets on air. I find his ads to be very dry, but they've been successful. It's a very good style for him. He spends a lot of money doing it. And I believe on air, he has a certain charisma, which is something that we all aspire to. And you don't know until you get on television if the public's going to like the way you look and sound. You just don't know it. It's like a politician running for office. And that's why his ads work. And that's why I've encouraged you throughout my talk to develop your own style. Because if you're genuine, if you're true to yourself, then your style will come across just like it does to a jury. And they will see you on television, it will resonate, and you will be more successful.
That was certainly the fastest 7 minutes I think I've ever spent in my life.